Hi, I'm Ted Haftagaber, founder and producer of Live Talks Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. Since we started over a decade ago, we have brought you hundreds of conversations with storytellers, writers, actors, musicians, humorists, chefs, and thought leaders in business and science. You can watch and hear most of these in our YouTube channel and our podcast. For details, visit livetalksla.org. And now, here's the show you've tuned in to see.
Well.
If you would have told me I was going to play your son.
I was just listening to your book, and I was reading your book. He's a beautiful book out called Happy People Are Annoying.
Okay, this is what John does, okay? Deflects, makes you feel great about yourself. This is about you tonight, babe.
You look very handsome.
So do you.
Your suit is gorgeous.
I felt a lot of pressure.
What?
I was in sweatpants till 6:45 tonight.
You look so good.
I'm like, Stamos gonna dress up for sure.
This old thing.
Come on. So I'm not gonna bury the lead here. You're a New York Times bestseller. How's that feel?
I'm upstaging you, aren't I? I asked you, I never thought about writing a book. It was the furthest thing from my mind. And I remember when you were writing yours, I was like, how do you write a book? Like, how do you start? And you were like, I set aside like 3 or 4 hours a day, and I didn't do that. But, so it's this whole thing seems so surreal. Yeah. And I really, I'm not even saying this to be humble, but I didn't know if people would want to buy it. These book signings and stuff, I didn't know if people were going to show up, and it's just been overwhelming, and I'm so grateful to all of you, and I don't know about you, but I just started like a vomit draft. I just started writing, and I sort of discovered my story as I was writing. I was like, well, maybe I do have something to say.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's go back, shall we?
Why not?
Let's go chronological. It was good enough for the Bible.
We only have 45 minutes, you know.
It's good enough for us. So you kind of speak, and you've always, knowing you for, over a decade now, the love for your family, it just abounds. Yeah. And it's something you lead with, the people that matter most to you. And you make that so clear in the book, and yet you wanted to be so famous.
Yeah?
It's usually not connected.
What do you mean?
Usually people want to be famous or messed up like me.
Well, yeah, no, you know what I think? I think I did share this like you. I say I want to be famous, but I just wanted to be liked when I was younger. Well, I wanted to be accepted, and I wasn't in school. I wasn't like the cool guy in school, and I didn't come. Yes, jumping ahead, but like you had a lot of obstacles to get over, and I didn't, and so. When later on in my life, when I didn't take care of myself, like, what the hell was I doing? Like, I had no excuse. You had an excuse, really,
Thanks. That's what I tell my parole officer.
But you made it, you made it. But I wanted to be. I love being famous. I don't mind, I love to meet people. I'm grateful. It's my whole. Didn't you want to be famous?
No, but.
You got your wish. No, I'm kidding.
It's so true.
I know that. Look, people knock me over to get to him when we're out together.
You can't buy it back now.
Too late?
We all heard it. No. You do say, there is a line, right, where you say you're sort of being tormented because you like this girl and she liked you back, and then her boyfriend just wanted to pulverize you, right?
Yeah.
Very classic high school scenario.
Bully.
And you say, I come to the conclusion that I can't take this anymore. I need to do something drastic to put an end to this torment. There's only one thing left for me to do. I got to get famous.
Yeah.
Some would say jujitsu.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I thought about that, but it took a lot.
You said famous.
Well,
Why?
I saw. Well, that moment happened. I walked into I heard this girl had a crush on me. It was the first time that I'd heard that from, and I think I was going from the caterpillar to the butterfly, and I was like, wow, this is great. I couldn't believe it. And this kid told me, he said, she has a crush on you, and she thinks you're cute. Don't tell anybody, because her sister told me. I told everybody, of course. And there was like a block party, and I was at the geeky party, and then the jock party was at the end. And as I told everybody, it was like a game of telephone. It went from one house to another, and then her boyfriend was there. And he comes up and bam, just clucks me right in the eye, gives me this terrible black eye. And it was the most humiliating, I just hated it. Well, I went to high school. There's a few high school. Do you remember when I got up? Remember that?
Wow.
And I was so, actually, these are my friends here from high school. And we were sort of the dorks, right? Right, Stacy, were we?
It's news to them.
I mean, they were cool, but, right?
Now, hold on. Now, finally, we have some real people that were on the front lines. This guy, he pulls the hot guy move, right? I was so dorky. The caterpillar. He was a band. This sucks.
Thank you.
I can't believe it. You really were a geek, huh?
They're plants. I was, so I got punched, and I was just so I was always afraid that he was going to beat me up, and this kid said, go look in the bathroom mirror, and I looked, and it said, I'm going to kill you, big nose. And I never forget that moment. I'm looking, and I could see it written, and yeah, I said, I want to become famous. But the point was that I would have bodyguards that would beat him up.
It's all right.
I say I would invite him, and each, I don't know, did you have this with anybody? Each milestone, each plateau that I hit, I was like, I'm going to show him, I'm going to get on TV. I'm going to play with the Beach Boys. I'm going to invite him to the Beach Boys. He's going to come backstage, and my bodyguards are going to beat him up while I'm playing a drum solo.
Yeah.
Did you have anybody like that?
Yeah, we're all trying to sort of prove, yeah, we're defending our young selves.
Yeah. I wanted to dedicate the book to him, but they said no. But here's the thing.
Who's they?
The publisher, the people.
Your family.
Yeah, my wife. But here's the thing. That's the kind of thing that I've grown out of, and I'm, over it. And thank God that I had, someone to sort of propel me. And I've not seen him or talked to him, since it happened. But I'd like to.
We chat.
You do?
Yeah, we're on a WhatsApp chain.
Really?
Yeah. He's a lovely guy. You got to give Rick a second chance.
But tell Rick this. I dated his girlfriend for about 3 years.
Hold on, we'll do a voice note.
Yeah, put him. Yeah. And she told me he was hung like a finch. So
solid.
Little guy. I'm not bitter.
I'll look up what a finch is.
It's a small bird.
Okay, so this was one of my favorite lines from the book, and it's part of this chapter of your life. And you say, coming out of your band geek phase, and then suddenly you become attractive, and people are giving you some more notice, and you say, my spine gets a little straighter from the attention. I put more into my appearance, maybe ease up on my dad's cologne. But I don't change who I am. In fact, I lean into it even more. I get a sense early on that trying to be part of some sport or clique or flashing a bunch of money around isn't as important as figuring out what is unique about yourself. So I ask,
yes.
What's unique about you? What do you think's unique about you? Because we all know what we think.
Right. Well, I wasn't, back then I was into puppets and magic, and I just sort of leaned into that. I loved the stunts, at lunch I'd be tripping over girls and stuff. And, but I couldn't be anything else. I didn't have money, I wasn't cool or anything, so I just leaned into what I was, and it turned out to be okay. And that's a good message, I mean, to kids and to people, that like, our differences make us so unique, as you know, and I'm glad that I didn't, even if I wanted to, I couldn't, but I didn't change. But
you have this, I'd love to hear what you think is, because I think part of your sparkle is and we'll get into General Hospital and all these things, you kind of don't have a chip on your shoulder. I was expecting and probably projecting you to sort of say, oh, I was doing General Hospital, it was great, and then I kind of rolled my eyes because it's a soap and that's its own particular thing. But it seems like you really appreciated it throughout, and you love Disney. You love these beautiful, sweet things, and you don't apologize about it.
Well, that's true. I thought I was there was a time a couple years ago. I was enough with this Disney. It's hurting my career. What am I doing? I'm such a dork. Then I went to dinner with a bunch of people, and Ryan Gosling was there, and he said, "Mac, I love that you're into Disney. I am too. I go there all the time. I put headphones on." I said, "Really, you're Disney?" Yeah, me. So now I just lean right back into it. Yeah. But you can't. I mean, And I remember, like, I did something with Johnny Depp years ago. I was like, I gotta be like him. I gotta be dirty. You know, like, and it just wasn't me. And I just, you know, I just stayed with. But appreciating all those things that I have now. That's the difference. And taking the little moments, like right now, taking the little wins. Today, I got Billy boba, and I called him. I said, I got you a boba in the refrigerator, and he jumped up and down like he just got $1 million.
Bobas are sick.
Bobas are good.
Bobas are sick. So good. You guys know. Okay, so this one, I, you know, we're all friends here, so I'm gonna ask because I know you want me to. You talk about losing your virginity in the book.
Really?
And you say,
my mother-in-law,
sorry for
my
the family.
sister.
I'm sorry. But I must ask, don't worry, guys. It's going to a fine place.
I was like almost 8. I was 17 and a half. It was, you know. What?
Great.
How old were you when you lost?
How
old were you?
Me?
Yeah, you.
18.
Okay.
All day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And how was it?
It's great.
Weird, right? No, it was good?
Well, that's my question. Because
Okay.
you say something to the effect of, this is what all the fuss was about?
Yeah.
It hurt. So I asked John, what hurt?
My soul. It was awkward. It was weird, you know, and it was. I mean, was yours like a romance novel? I doubt it.
No, it wasn't one of my better performances.
It had to be awkward a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd practiced so much alone. So,
So you were good at it, but not with other people.
Sure.
Now let me ask you a question. You're flying tomorrow morning. Is that if you do it alone? Is that the Mile High Club? Or I never know.
It's the Mile Sad Club.
Yeah. All right, we got family here.
So you talk about how the editor of Tiger Beat magazine, you're a teen, and
right,
she comes into your life, and she's, you know, somewhat part of the family.
Yes.
And you basically just say that you convince her, and at this point you'd only done like 2 commercials,
right,
to put you in Tiger Beat. How do you do that?
Well, I didn't. I mean, she sort of discovered me, and she saw me, and she said something about him captivated me. And she became really good friends with our family, and she sort of like my mother was. She called our mother Mom, and she just sort of molded me. Then when I got on television, I was on the covers and everything, and she was sort of like an idol maker, and she was kind of started to get obsessive a bit, and then it started getting a little weird, and then a couple of years later, she ended up marrying Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker from
Solid.
And she said the same thing.
Love is love.
She said the same thing about him that she said to me. She said something about him captivated me. And what's really my father was like, he was roaming around in our area in Orange County, before they caught him. And my dad was always outside with a baseball bat protecting his family. Mm-hmm. And when he got wind of what was going on with Doreen, she'd call and just pick up, "Don't you call here anymore, goddamn!" Slam the phone down.
Yeah.
And then my mom and her started writing these notes, which I have, which are really interesting as well. But not that point, but going back to the virginity and the bullying. When I set out to write this, I was like, I'm going to write a hero story. I did this and I did that, and I said, that's not and it became a sort of an honest. Guy who's just trying to get through life, really, a human story. And that's why I focused in on bullying, which I think some people can relate to, wanting to be popular, losing my virginity wasn't like perfect. So those were those moments, I think, that why I put them in.
So you get on General Hospital, and you talk about this person in your life, Tony Geary, mm-hmm. who was an actor on the show and became kind of this, mentor for you. And you said that he taught you, there was a line where it says, Tony Geary, learning how to act, restraint, not having to fill up all the spaces. If that's a piece of your acting style, where did you sort of hone your thing? Where did you, because you kind of talk about that you took a famous acting teacher and a famous acting coach's class, and you resisted it, like after the first time you were out of there. That's a great story. If you want.
It was sort of a funnel to Scientology.
Cool.
Right?
All right, couple here tonight.
I've worked with so many other people that could have done this. It was Milt Katselas, and all of a sudden I found myself at the Scientology building there, and I was such a, a fuck up. They were making me do the thetans, and I was doing jokes about it, and the E-meter, and I was like, hello there, doing old-timey stuff. And they're like, get him out of here. But that was that acting class. Where did I get my...
Well, because you were beautifully sort of raw, let's say, going into General Hospital. So.
Yeah, it was that fearlessness, right? That was like, I just went... Our parents never put obstacles up. Like, if I wanted to do something, they said, just do it, go, do it. And, I learned from my father very early on. I worked at the restaurant, and I watched the way he treated the busboy the same way he treated his best customer. Yeah. And that stayed with me, too. He made me work there on Sundays and didn't let me quit. I did the show starts airing, and I'm still working on Sundays at my dad's place. People started coming in saying, can I have a cheese? Aren't you the guy? No. I said, Dad, I'm famous, can I quit?
Yeah.
And he said, no. Now, I don't know if it was because he wanted me to, to stay disciplined and humble, or it was good for business.
Sure.
But he finally came down to General Hospital, and he saw the way I was with people, and he said, all right, son, you can leave the restaurant. Go with God, and God bless you.
No 2 weeks' notice?
Nope, that was it. I was there for months. But I was fearless. Do you know, and you've been at that place before, and it's sort of something I've been trying to get back to ever since, where you just blast onto the scene. Some of it was great, some of it was shit, but I was just unabashed, fearless energy. And to get to that place, and I heard you talking about it in your book, where you just stop caring so much if you get a job or once you get it, to make every scene perfect. And so that was a moment as I was writing the book that I remember just being like, here I am, and it worked.
Do you think that you talk about the moment that you realize you're getting 10,000 pieces of fan mail?
I thought it was for Rick Springfield, but seriously.
Not bad.
Yeah.
And is that the point of no return?
You mean becoming a teen idol? Or?
Well, maybe teen idol, but also just like as a young, you're 20 years old at this point, 19 years old?
19, yeah.
Like how that's got to have such a massive effect on just the way in which you go forward, you live your life, you look at the world, right?
Right.
That adoration.
But I had my family to, knock me right back down.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do these car shows and these things, and I would come home with a bag of cash, $10,000. I look at this, Dad, and he goes, who cares? Here's the pooper scooper, go clean up the dog poop in the backyard.
Yeah.
Really. So, but I know what you're saying. It was a point of, well, hopefully you hope it's a point of no return, but I thought it wasn't, and I guess it wasn't. I just kept going, and I was very earnestly, I would there was an incredible producer on General Hospital, Gloria Monty, and she changed the face of daytime. And I was there Blackie was supposed to die, and my mom wrote a lot of those letters. And I stuck around, but I wanted to be funny. I wanted to be on a comedy. I wanted to be on a Gary Marshall sitcom. I loved Happy Days and Vernon Shirley, all those shows. And so I remember my contract was up, and she took me to lunch, and she said, dear, you're not going to leave my show, are you? And I said, yeah, Gloria, I think I want to be funny. She said, you want to be funny, huh, dear? I said, yeah. It was like a mafia-style place. Dean Martin was over there. I'm not kidding. And she says, well, I have to tell you, if you leave the show, you'll never work in this town again. And I said, no, I probably will. No, I think I will. Yeah. And I did. I went off and did a comedy. I worked with Jack Klugman, So when on that show, You Again, Jack was a great teacher, really my first mentor, and he would make me sit in the corner on rewrite nights, and there'd be these titans of comedy. Gary Marshall was one, and Jerry Belson and Harvey Miller, and I would just sit and watch the way that they wrote, constructed jokes, and you work with me where I want to tear every scene apart. And that was an invaluable lesson. That's where I met Gary. And it turns out that Gary was the one who suggested me for Full House. Gary worked with Miller and Boyette. He said, they're doing a show. Can you play guitar? I said, okay. Yeah. And then I landed on Full House.
You have this this theme in your life of collecting these older sages. You love them, right? Gary Marshall, Jack Klugman, Rickles, these people. Are
you doing that to me, by the way? No.
Yes.
All mine are dead. I got to get some new ones.
Just people with great hair. And there's something that I noticed too. Like, first, I'd love to know where that's born out of, and also like you say in the book, especially with Rickles, at the time in which you met him, it really stuck in your craw that he was going through a moment where he was sort of underappreciated,
right?
And that really didn't sit right with you.
No, I mean, we actually were at a dinner two separate tables, and we were sitting back to back, and I could hear him, and he could run. We started talking like this, and he was at the point where people thought he was dead, and he was so funny. And I gravitated. I think because my father died at a young age, I started gravitating towards older gentlemen, and I wanted to learn so badly. And they would call me the sponge, and I think that's why they liked me, because I would just, well, tell me. And Don was, he was incredible. And I loved stand-up comedy. I loved comedy, and I loved the structure of it, the math of it. But then he became, they did all these tributes to him, and we did that Mr. Warmth, the documentary, and the whole world saw he was still alive and still the funniest man on the planet.
Yeah.
And we did it, so the pilot we did a show called Grandfathered, Josh and I, and he was wonderful in it. I loved working with you. I mean, it was just a magical time, and I know some of it was, I was listening to your book, it was rough for you, but I thought you were so great on there, and every day I look forward to working with you, because you were fearless too. You were a little neurotic, but you were like, but you were.
Changed.
I know.
Is this going well?
Yeah. But the opening, the pilot. Do you remember we had? We were trying to get famous people, and so Christina Milian, right? Mm-hmm. She was dating Lil Wayne at the time, the rapper. Do you remember this?
I'm very aware. I'm a millennial.
Yeah, I was like, Josh, who is this guy?
You're asking me about Lil Wayne?
You're right.
You're like, did you know Perry Como? No. Okay.
I feel like we're turning our backs to you. Hello. Yes, I knew Perry Como. No. So Lil Wayne and Deion Sanders, right? So
yes.
it was Rickles.
What sport does Deion Sanders play?
Basketball. Not basketball. He's a coach, I know that, right?
He is a coach now.
Prime,
yeah.
They call him Prime.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
No, I was just saying that, so Rickles, you couldn't contain him, and he was very much in character because he drank about 3 or 4 vodkas, do you remember? Yeah. And so they go action, and Don just let loose, and he was like, hey, Wayne, I just talked to the warden. You're working in the kitchen Friday, Wait a minute, where's my wallet? He's doing all these jokes about Lil Wayne with the teeth. And it was either, he was either going to shoot him or laugh. Do you remember? Right. And I was so scared, but that was a cool moment. Just saying, huh?
Before, the last thing I want to ask about General Hospital, one of my favorite stories in the book, because it has so much to do with who you have become as a musician and the early, basically that you were sort of thrusted into your musical ability and your talents on the show because of Sammy Davis Jr., which is no joke. Will you tell that story?
Well, I wanted to play music on General Hospital. I wanted to play drums, and they weren't exactly taking requests from the new kid. And so one day I looked at the script, and I asked my dad, I said, who's this Sammy Jr. guy? He's on the Sammy Davis Jr. He played me some of his records. I said, what do I talk to him about? He said, talk to him about music and drum. He plays a drummer, played, And so I'm standing next to him and saying, Mr. Davis Jr., they won't let me play drums on the show, And I talked like a Mouseketeer then. And we had this beautiful conversation about music, and he stopped and he really listened. He's like, I think this kid, I saw something that he recognized that I was for real about music and the way I was talking about it, my passion and my heart. And he said, okay, babe, hold on. And I do impressions. So he walks over to the, and there was a band set up and everything because he was doing his song. And he walks over to the office, to Gloria's office, and then he comes back out and he said, okay, man, just do what I say. And like, what? And I remember, I'll never forget, he was very firm, meaning like, do what I say in the scene, and just do what I say, okay. And I go and I introduce him, it was a waterfront, it was a charity. I said, oh, here's so-and-so. He comes out and he talks and he goes, Blackie, you play drums, right? And they cut to me and I'm like, yeah. It's totally ad-lib. I said, what are we going to do? He said, let's do some jazz, man. 1, 2, 1, 2. They go, and we had this moment again, and it was real. It was like the sage passing it on. And we just kept playing, and it was this beautiful moment. And I heard later that all the people in New York were coming up to the monitors and ABC in Los Angeles. And we kept going, and we finished, and he gave me this beautiful hug. And it was so, it changed my life. And he invited me to see him at the Greek a couple of years later. And I walked backstage, and he came out, and he was frail. Then he was dying of cancer. And hey, babe, gives me a hug. And the hug was quite different than it was when we were on the set. And we went over to the bar, and he ordered an Orange Crush for me and an Orange Crush for him. And he said, the cigs and the dope I don't miss. The booze I miss. And he passed away a couple of years later. I was lucky time for me.
It's the dope for me.
Yeah.
You get it. So
if you would have told me I'd be here at this moment, I never thought of writing a book. It was the last thing on my mind. I can't believe that it happened and that you're here with me. I really appreciate it, Josh. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
I love you too.
Of course.
We're doing a commercial next week. Can't tell you what it is, but
so it's good. It's gonna play during a big game. No, I'm kidding. I wish. So to me, like, if you would have told me, you know, the part that really is the greatest, if you would have told me, is what a beautiful life and family you have, and we'll get there. But to me, like, if you would have told me that you get to play for 30 plus years with one of the greatest bands that has ever existed, and also your idols, nobody, Daniel Day-Lewis is not playing with a band. You know,
Right.
like, I don't care. Like, that's doable, right? No, I mean, it doesn't matter how famous, how powerful you get. No one gets to play with their idols, and you do on a regular basis. What's that like?
The greatest, next to my wife and my child, the greatest thing in my life. I mean, and it's been going on for close to 40 years now.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I have such a blessed life to be able to play that music, and especially during a time like right now. I'm just jumping ahead to, you know, with the way the world is, and to get to be just a small part of getting that music out to the world just means so much to me. The first time, so I fell in love with this girl, and I walked in on her, and she was with someone else in bed. I don't want to say who. No, not you, but you know.
I get it. I wasn't born.
Okay, good. Anyway, I was very depressed, and I knew one of the guys in the Beach Boys, and he said, why don't you come to this show in San Diego we're doing at a baseball stadium after the Padre game. He said, but here's the backstage. Come backstage after fun, and they only hang out for about 5 or 10 minutes, they do an encore and they leave, so you have to get back there by then. Okay, fun ends, and I go out onto the field, and all of a sudden I hear this screaming. I'm like, what is that? Who's screaming? I was like, oh no, it's about 40 girls screaming at me. And I just ran like an idiot.
Yeah.
And they then started chasing me. And like a fool, I'm running the bases, you know, like, and I look up on the jump, what's it called?
Jumbotron?
Jumbotron, yeah. And I'm wearing like my Jordache jeans, my skinny jeans, and my feathered, I look like a dead crow on my head. And I'm running, and I'm not a great runner. The girls are, of course, like right on my tail. And they see the backstage, I run in there and they slam the door, and I'm like, I'm breathing so hard, the girls are screaming out there, and I look over, and my idols, all 4 were there at the time, they look over at me like, who is this weirdo? And they hung out with Manson, so. That was it, and Mike Love said to my friend Jeffrey, he said, who's that? He said, John Stamos, he's a drummer, and he's on General Hospital, and he said, do girls chase after him, scream like that all the time? And Jeff said, yeah. He goes, get him on stage.
Yeah.
And I played Barbara Ann, and then they asked me to play at this, at the Washington Monument in 1985. First we were in Philadelphia, and you're going there tomorrow?
I am.
Philadelphia, and there was 1 million people, and then we took a train to DC, and there was 700, 800,000 people there. I can't, you know. And they asked me, they said, when I got there, they were late, and they said, Stamos, you're famous. Go tell all the 750,000 constipated, drunk people. They said, tell them to take a few steps back and stop pushing, or we're going to shut the show down. I'm like, really? Okay. And some DJ gets on, ladies and gentlemen, Blackie, and I'm like, Blackie, you know. And then they saw that it was me, and they started clapping and screaming. I said, hi, everybody. Listen, they asked me to ask you all to take a step back, or they're going to shut the show down. They went from screaming for me to booing at me. Boo! I said, let me finish. That's what they said. You can do whatever you want. Rock and roll, you know. But it was like, I remember being up there on those drums too, and mainly I just wanted to play good for the band, so they thought I was a good drummer. But it was a feeling, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't, I just can't believe a lot of this stuff. But that's why, why I wanted to sort of focus on some of the heartbreak that I dealt with and, some of the relatable stuff.
And what do you think, like the Beach Boys, there are certain bands you could probably slide into and play like a basic drum rhythm and just kind of blend in. These are like musicians of the highest order. Like, they don't seem like they suffer fools. I've met them before.
Yeah.
Do they remember me?
Yeah.
Okay.
They said, when's Drake coming around?
How did you feel confident enough to keep up?
I was an idiot. I was so naive, and I think that comes across in the book. My naivete just sort of was more helpful than anything. I just said, I can do it. I'm going to come back and do it. Okay, can I play this song tonight? Okay. And I did it.
So you do this little show, Full House, and the people seem to love it. What drew you, I feel like in the book you say what really drew you to the show was having this great meeting with Jeff Franklin. Was it on the page? Did you have any suspicion, like, wow, this might just have something special?
I liked the character because he was a rock and roll guy and stuff, and Miller and Boyette, these, were the guys that did Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, all those shows with Gary, so they had an incredible pedigree, and those were the guys that I wanted to work with. And when I met with them, they said, this is going to be like bosom buddies, like three guys, and there's some kids in the background, but it's three buddies, just like bosom buddies, no cross-dressing till season 2 or 3. But the kids will be back there. I said, okay. So I did the reading at the Century Plaza Hotel near Fox over there. And I walk in like I'm the macha. You know what that is?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Come on.
Explain it to the audience.
The macher, it's like the head honcho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I was coming off General Hospital, and the mothers were like, "Ooh," and I sit down, and starring John Stamos, and the kids just blow me away. They blew the roof off the place, and it was like, John who? Jodie Sweetin was a superstar. And like every line that she got was one of these laughs. I'm slung around like this, and I run to the lobby, and I throw a quarter into the phone, and I say, "Get me off this effing show! I hate it!"
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. And I really, I tell you, I started with, in the book, the first chapter is this, horrible day when I was driving, not sober, and I almost, I could have killed somebody. And you were, yeah.
Oh, we had done the pilot for Grandfather.
We shot the pilot, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God, you're finally.
It was a cool text. I remember my buddy's like, Stamos okay? And I was like, what do you mean? And then I see it, and then
it was horrible. And my 5 stages of grief there were just more alcohol and more debauchery, and it was awful. And so I started with that, and then I thought the next hardest chapter will be the chapter about the day that I found out that Bob died. And luckily my 5 stages of grief at that point were, family and therapy and, more healthy stuff. And then, how do I get... But the 2 hardest chapters that turned out to be were the Full House chapters. And I didn't know... I know how much the show means to people. And so I wanted to do it justice. And I couldn't figure out the angle. I started out with Bob, and I didn't like each other.
Right.
We've talked about that a lot. But his technique was quite different than mine. You remember, you were on Fuller House a couple times, huh?
Yeah. But talk about that, because you do say that in the book, that you guys really were butting heads in the beginning.
Yeah, well, he was very disruptive. And Kelly, his wife, said, she called me crying, and she said, you really captured Bob. If anybody doesn't know Bob and they read this book, that's Bob. He was a complicated man, as you know. Yeah. I'm sure I drove him crazy too, because my technique was, obsessing over every single line, and why are we hugging? Why is she saying you got a dude? There's no dude in here. There's a turtle in a thing. But and he was addicted to laughs. He had comedy Tourette's. He had to get, like a junkie, he had to get laughs. And if he wasn't getting it during the scene, he had to make the crew laugh and everybody. And it just was difficult to work that way. And he started to get his first wife, ex-wife, at his funeral came up and gave me a hug and said, Bob loved you so much. He also hated you. He was so jealous. And you know,
That's what my wife's going to tell you at my funeral. I'm going first.
you're never gonna die. But I was jealous of him, and we just couldn't tell each other that. It took a while for us to learn from each other and be able to put our petty differences aside. It was a rough time. His sister got scleroderma, and Dave's sister had a very bad cancer, and our sister Janine was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so all of a sudden we became not just three guys on a TV show, we were three brothers grieving, so worried about our sisters not making it.
Yeah.
Sadly, Bob's spent his whole life trying to get a cure for scleroderma, as you know. And his sister never got to see that. And she passed away, and Dave's sister passed away. And thank God, our sister Janine was misdiagnosed, and she has MS, and she's still around today, and thank God. So she's not here. So it was then all of a sudden we bonded, and then Bob and I just got closer and closer, and we just dealt with life after that. Life happened, divorce, and my dad died, and I asked him to host my father's funeral, and it was good. Lena, do you guys remember? Can I cuss here or no?
Please.
This is Bob's joke. He got up, his opening line was, tonight's specials are cake and cock, and we're out of cake. And my mom, like I almost lost, yeah.
Amazing.
I almost became an orphan that night, both parents. But then he got very warm, and it was, that was his way of dealing with grief, is, to make jokes about it. And it was a much needed time. I talk about, so Full House, so once we got, on the right path, it was, I loved it. And I remember some guy coming up to me at one point saying, man, I really love your show. I'm a single dad with 2 kids, and, we look at your show, my kids didn't think they were a family because it wasn't a mom and a dad and 2.3 kids. But you guys aren't the traditional family, but you're a family. And that's it. That every year that's gone by, divorce has gone up, same-sex marriage. So the traditional family is not the traditional family anymore. And so that show was a family to people. Yeah. And there was no central character on the show. The central character was love. And it was family. And the critics got in my ear for so many years. And when I finally realized that we're not making the show for you guys or girls, they didn't think it was sophisticated enough. But when I really thought about it, in lieu of sophistication, sweetness came. And the brain moved to the side, and it was a chance to feel something decent. That show is a home-cooked meal for people now. It's a warm, safe place for people to go, that's my family. And you were on a show like that too. And the Beach Boy music is like that. So now I'm so proud of that show. It's a show that I fought so hard to forget is become, just such an important thing to the world and to me. Oh. Critics. I went on Seth Meyers, although they've been very good to this book. I went on Seth Meyers and read
They're not all bad.
No, they're not all bad. I went on Seth Meyers and read some of the critics, what they said about Fuller House. One guy compared it to necrophilia. Now, you know what that is, Josh? I'll tell you after.
Yeah, it's very trendy.
It's terrible. Anyway,
well, let me ask, I remember at Bob's memorial, you would walk around and we would have her aside for a second, because obviously everyone wanted to talk to you, and you would say, can you believe this? Like, the amount of love, the reaction, the world's reaction, Hollywood's reaction.
The only time I was jealous of him.
Yeah?
It was, yeah.
A bit of truth there. But you were just like, I wish he knew this when he was here, just how deeply loved and respected he was.
He never knew it, right? I mean, and you could tell him, oh, God, buddy, you're so funny and you're so brilliant, and I did all the time. In his mind, he wasn't Chappelle. He didn't have 7 Netflix specials and, selling out arenas. But he was so loved, and he didn't know. And I think of him, I talked about this, that night it was, I thought about him just driving home from that comedy. He did this great set. He was on stage for 2 hours. And you saw in his Instagram the next day, he said, oh man, I feel so young again, and I'm alive, and I just did a 2-hour set. took a picture and he called Kelly at home. And he said, Kelly, or he texted her. We called her, and then he said, I have this picture and I want to send it to you so you could fix it up so I could look a little more handsome. And she said, you don't need it, Bob. This is a beautiful picture. And then he went to the hotel, and I like to think that he went to lay his head on his pillow, and he was thinking about how much he missed all of us and that he was going to see us all soon. And that he just left this comedy store, and he made 200 people laugh harder than they've ever laughed. And he goes to sleep smiling and knowing that. And that helps me with that, you know. Our last dinner was monumental, and Caitlin was there. Bob and I, he was everything that I wanted him to be that night. And I hope I was to him. He was calm, and he listened and asked questions. And then we both sat and go, look at us two schlubs. We finally made it. Look at our beautiful wives. How lucky are we? And we really talked about that and felt that. And he liked to take pictures, and it was like, this one, hey, this one, my neck fat, this way. And that drove me crazy.
I like that. I look good from up here.
Well, that's how Bob, he needed a drone to be happy with his picture. But that night it didn't bother me for some reason.
Yeah.
So maybe I was growing a little bit. And, it was one of those things where, we talked about, tonight's special is our cake, and I said, why are we in a rush, And he said, we're not. Let's sit a while. So we ordered some more food, and we sat longer, and we just talked, and we sat out, and the ocean was there, and we just, if you're out with somebody that you care about, nothing is that important. Just slow down a little bit and order the cake, because we did that night, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah. And it must be said, I don't know if I had to sign an NDA to go to the memorial, but there was a murderer's row of comedians there. You made this gorgeous video and this beautiful eulogy, and then proceeded was, Jeff Ross and Chappelle. And my two favorite lines from the night were, everyone's quoting Bob throughout the night, and we're cracking up and just loving him. And Chappelle said, he's like, can you believe it? He's like, Bob's killing at his own funeral.
He said he used to talk to Bob, and he would give him advice and calm him down about, comedy and business and being black. It was, I went up to Chappelle, I said, man, you're the GOAT, and you made our Bob feel really good about himself the last few years. He goes, are you kidding me? Like, that guy was there for me when I first started. He mentored me, he gave me advice, and, it was the least he could do to show up.
And then Tim Allen had a great line, because he said, I heard that someone called me, and he's like, I happened to be in Orlando too, where Bob passed away, and he was like, and I was staying at the Hyatt, and I get a call that, Bob they just found him, he passed away he was staying at the Ritz, and it was early this morning, and of course the first thing I thought was like, why the fuck am I at the Hyatt?
But that's why you have to take these moments, and it's hard to be in the moment. It's very hard to be present, because we got so much going on, and we got to think what's happening after this, and you have to go to a plane. But to be here tonight with all of you, it really feels so beautiful, and I'm really trying to stop and really take in these moments in life, because tomorrow's never promised, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that important. It's hard though. It's hard to focus. It's hard not to be all over the place, for me especially. But but you feel so good when you put your head on the pillow at the end of the night and go, okay, I was there for everything today. I experienced every little moment. And to me, writing this book, another thing I discovered was like, it's really the little things that are the most important in life. Calling Billy today and telling me he got a boba,
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't, for me, one thing doesn't define, one TV show, one thing, whatever. It's these little microtransaction, Phil calls them. There's little moments throughout the day, every day, with people and connecting with people that I think is really the most important thing now.
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your beautiful family and how, I remember when we first met, and it was 2015, a year, I think you had met Caitlin before, but you guys hadn't reconnected quite yet. And you would say this kind of sweet talk show slightly sad answer, which you would say to me, you know, I've had enough. I think I've had enough. Like, my life's been so good. Almost like I'm overpaid. So yeah, maybe I don't get to do the wife and kid thing.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I've had such a good life.
What an asshole I was.
You think so?
I mean it because this is what I came from, a family. Now, how could I say that I've got everything? I don't need that. And I almost didn't get it. You know, I did sober up. You were very helpful in that arena. It's difficult, as you know, and it's like, do you remember the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark? Did you ever see that one? And do you remember when the walls? We were watching it with Billy, and the walls coming down, and they're shooting darts at the guy, and he grabs the whip just in the nick of time, and he rolls under, and the wall goes boom. That was me with marriage and a family. Like, I just made it, and because I stopped confusing the universe. I started to live the way my parents raised me. Again, I didn't mean to be funny about it earlier, and you went through your troubles, but you straightened out, and I shouldn't have. I mean, it's just, it was life and success, and my parents were, they were functioning and they were fine with it, but I kept, poking at it like a bear, like a monster, and they went, Rrr! And then I found myself in the middle of it. And then, I'm dealing with my dad's death, I'm dealing with divorce. Eventually, my mom passes away, and I just, like this. But I could remember looking in the mirror going, this is not who I'm supposed to be. This is not who my parents raised. What am I doing? I'm so disrespectful to this. And, and when I finally got clear, then after a while, Caitlin came into my life. We did, I was doing the episode of SVU, Law and Order.
Yeah. I love that one.
Do you?
That's
good.
And I like BLT, but no, I'm kidding. Terrible joke. It's awful.
It's not bad.
I hate myself.
And she was on the set, and I was playing this guy who was a serial, I had 47 children, and he was getting these women pregnant without, he said he had money, and he was so egotistical that he wanted to spread his progeny, and he wanted to have all these kids, but he was tricking, the women, and Caitlin, the two guys, Stabler and what's his name, Ice-T, came knocking at the door, and she's like,
what's happening here? No, I love her.
Don't record
Things
that.
We have an issue. I'm very close with Ice-T.
You are? And with the other guys, and she said, he's in there, and they check the door down, and I have my glasses on, and I have a little needle, and I'm poking a thing in a hole in a condom. I'm like, what? And they kind of corner me, and they go, you have all these kids. I said, well, you haven't checked Europe. I got more there. The guy was a wacko. And the whole thing was that I was trying to get the character that she's, playing pregnant. It took me about 7 years, but I finally did, and we had a child. I didn't give up. And that was some of the most gratifying stuff to write, just how my Disney girl and how wonderful life has been, but just this morning I was like, this morning is great. Didn't we make she made something, I can't remember, I tried to eat it, but no, this morning those little donut holes for Billy, but it was just, I love those, just, do you love that with your kids? Just, that's simple, just morning time, and we're playing music, and Billy was doing bits, and he's a character.
He's pretty great.
I wish Bob was because he's dirty like Bob.
He's 6.
He's 5.5, but he's a bit of a womanizer. Now, I was not, but Caitlin said, I had lots of boyfriends when I was his age. Really? We were at Paris. We were in Paris Disney one. Well, still, one's a lot. I didn't have any. Billy, we were at Paris Disney, and we were there a couple days. And the first day we had this guide, very nice woman. French woman, 50s or something. Billy was, and then the next day we had a 30-year-old pretty French girl, and Billy was like a cartoon character. And this is his move. I don't know. It's like, what's my favorite color? Like, you have to guess his shit. Like, he's so, what kind of dinosaur do I like?
What's my favorite fruit snack?
Yeah. He talks like Ice-T. And so, and I hear him, I turn him over, and he's talking to her. I have this girlfriend, and her name is Bella, and she lives down the street, and she's really cute, and we have fun, and we go do this, and we do that. Okay. And she excuses herself and goes to the restroom. It's weird. Just as she's out of earshot, he looks at me and goes, why did I tell her I had a girlfriend? Right? Funny kid, like he had a shot at her. He did get her number. These are the jokes.
He'll revisit monogamy later.
What's that?
He'll revisit monogamy later.
Yeah.
Now he's just got a wandering eye.
Well, you saw him at how are your boys? Are they have girlfriends yet?
Here, living, pulses. Yeah. We're very close.
Yeah. You're a father. Let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah, happy to help.
So, and Kayla doesn't agree with this, but like, if Billy and I sit down and watch Full House for 2 or 3 hours, and I have to go
2 or 3 hours?
It's only
Billy, can you believe Dad?
No, well, we sit down and we start watching, and then I go do stuff, but that's like spending time with Dad, isn't it? I mean,
it's fair. It's good.
Uncle Jesse is a much better. He'll learn so many better lessons from
less
Uncle
curse
Jesse.
words.
A lot less curse words. I'm kidding.
So I think we have a Q&A, but the last question I want to ask, and it's a very simple, but I think pretty prolific line in the book where you say, there's a lot more life to live beyond these pages.
Yes.
So you wanted to be famous, you're famous.
Got it, yeah.
Beautiful family. So what does that line mean to you now?
Well, I want to keep living. I mean, I'm 60. How old were you when you wrote your book? It was like 5 years ago?
No, it was like 34. But it's so millennial of me. Be like, I'm going to write my memoir now.
How would you? That's the thing. But you have so much. You've lived so much life since then. I mean, I loved it. You know, going towards the end, and you know, he was just in a super big movie that I'm sorry I haven't seen yet. But you guys saw it. And I was bummed out because I wish that was the ending of the because you said he stopped auditioning for a while and that was it, and you were done, and then you started auditioning again, and then you got the show on Disney Plus that I have, we were on together. So I was waiting for the big movie, but you did it, and look at you.
Well, I think the part of it is that if you're not gone, where do you end the book? Because something's always coming, right?
Right.
And then,
well, that's it.
So that's the interesting.
So much,
there's more to come.
There's more to come. I mean, I'm 60, but I'm not dying anytime soon, and neither are you. We have a lot of life to live. I talked about hummingbirds, and it was my dad. There was hummingbirds when my dad died. And we said, "Oh, hi, Dad," and my mom, and I just think of that. Like, I'm going to live for a good long time, and when I'm not, I'm going to, be this hummingbird that'll come down and see Billy and go, "Hey, Billy, everything's cool, man. I'm okay, everybody's okay," and flutter off. I mean, I'm nobody's guardian angel, but I'm going to be one hell of a hummingbird. Yeah.
I think it's time for a Q&A.
What's a story or experience you would be willing to share that did not make it into the book?
That's a very good. Who asked that question? That's a good question. Again, when I started writing, I thought I couldn't fill up 50 pages, and that's one of the advice. One of the things you said: keep it short. Don't keep it, and shorter chapters will keep people moving.
Yeah.
And so I cut out a lot of stuff, and thanks to you, it was a lot of good stuff that people. I got a death threat on Full House, and I had a whole chapter about that. It was pretty scary. It was the first time that kind of thing happened. There was a guy on a lot across the street, and he said, "Where's John Stamos?" And the girl says, "I don't know. He was at the wrong lot, the dummy, but close." And she said, "I don't know why." He said, "I'm going to kill him." And then she went and told security, and they couldn't find him. Then he started calling the ABC hotline, saying he was going to kill me. And so I get called into Tom Miller and Bob Boyett's office, and, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And they have candy everywhere. I don't want candy. So somebody's, there's nothing to be alarmed about, but someone's trying to kill you. What do you mean someone's trying to kill me? And they assigned an FBI agent to me for weeks. And it was very interesting, obviously. I wasn't scared enough, like I should have been. I was like trying to ditch the guy all the time. But
Smart.
Yeah. Turned out that he was, like a jealous boyfriend or, whatever it was, and it just kind of went away.
It was Rick.
It was Rick. I changed his name, by the way. And the funny part was that Bob, we would do this chant before the tapings, and we would all gather up in the kitchen, and we and break. And Dave, you just say something funny at the end, and Bob, that time with Bob, John, if you get killed, can I have your parking spot? You know. I had a good parking spot.
I bet.
There was always someone trying to beat me up or kill me. Mickey Rourke, that was part of that.
Mickey Rourke wanted to beat you up?
Yep.
He could.
Yeah,
he'd kick your ass. For sure.
Yeah, no, I don't know about now.
Now.
Now? Okay.
Yeah.
Probably.
Was it hard for you to visit difficult memories when you were writing the book?
Yeah, I didn't want to. And I felt like, what am I doing if it's not, I talked about my divorce, which was very difficult. I didn't want to, and they said, well, you got to talk about it. Like, all right. But in writing it, I realized, like, I was very angry for a long time, and I blamed her for everything. And, in the fourth, I was in rehab in the 12 steps, and the fourth step was write down your resentments. And so I had this long thing, and I said, okay, write down, and I was like, she did this, and she did that, blah, 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 blah. I kept going, give me another piece of paper. Are you done? No. I said, now I'm done. He said, so on the next column, write what part you played in all that. I'm like, what? I didn't play. It's just, even if it's 1%, And I said, okay, I'm writing more and more. And it was like, I came to the conclusion in writing, it's like, well, maybe, in that case, and in a lot of things, maybe I had more to do with it than I wanted to admit. And at that moment, I came up with this line that said, anything less than truth is paralysis. And so it was, that kind of stuff. The more I wrote about it, the freer I felt. It sort of, weight lifted off my shoulders and my chest.
I see Jamie Lee Curtis wrote the foreword to the book.
Yeah.
How did that come together? What's your connection to her?
Well, we knew each other for a long time, for a while. I loved her dad, Tony Curtis, and then we worked together on Scream Queens. And she was, I loved that show. She's a force of nature. She talks loud, too. And because she did the audio of it. I asked her, I said, will you do the foreword to my book? She said, well, people don't normally do that for autobiographies, do they? I go, I think so. 15 minutes later, she sent the most beautiful, I read it to you guys, remember that day? And I just couldn't believe it, so that's why. She's a great person, and I talk to her every morning, and it's a great way to start the day. We talk about we do G, what we're grateful for, which is a great habit to get into, whether you write it down or think about it, and that's what this book was. Like, I really realized what a beautiful life I have. But we'll do that, and then we do F for fears, like what we're fearful of, and then A, like our attributes, like I'm a lover, I'm a fighter, you know the song.
Yeah.
But it's great to do that kind of stuff every day because it's a good way to start the day, and Jamie does that.
John, I love your singing voice since the days of Full House. Why haven't you released an album?
Because I'm
Caitlin, that was nice of you to write that question.
As a joke?
No.
Honestly, I'm not a great singer. I don't enjoy singing. I have auto-tune on my voice right now, just when I'm talking. I don't sing in tune, so that's why. Look, the truth is, I always, for a while, I was like, do an album, do your own band. I was like, I play with Beach Boys. I don't really need to, and I just did that the whole time and never. Full House, there was a lot of auto-tune splashed all over that. And then when I had to go do Broadway, I'm like, oh God, I gotta sing live. I just put so much vibrato on it, I eventually hit the note. That's why.
Is there a role you still would like to play, like maybe Elvis? Is there a dream role out there, maybe Elvis?
No, Josh. I'd like to do Josh on Josh. I don't know. I'm waiting for my Breaking Bad. Like, I'm super satisfied with my career. Sadly, we've been on strike for a while, but it gives us time to spend time with our family, and I know a lot of people are hurting through it, so I hope it ends soon. But I'm waiting. It'll calm my field now because I'm not trying so hard to get it. But that great, Breaking Bad role, I would love to find someday, right?
Yeah.
You want to be in it? You want to be there?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it.
But I called you and told you that you got the job, right, on Grandfather?
You did, yeah. But you also gave me a little extra attention at the audition. I'm like,
Because I wanted you to get it.
I was like, I got this shit. No.
Yeah, it was great.
No, you never know, but yeah, you really, and you do that for everyone. You want to make people win.
Well, I've been so fortunate that why not share it, right?
Yeah.
A couple more questions. How do you feel your Greek heritage and upbringing shaped who you are today?
Greek? No, I'm Irish. Well, it was family. It was the Greeks and a lot of your Jewish community, family. So that was helpful. When I did Full House, first of all, the character was named Adam. I said, that's not funny. What about Jesse? And they went, okay, great. Jesse was Elvis's twin brother who died at birth, the Jesse Guerin. So I said, let's do that. And then I was Jesse Cochran for the first season. My dad was like, what's with this Cochran shit? Where's the Greek? And not long before that, I turned down the role of Richie Valens in La Bamba. And my dad said, why? I said, even back then, I didn't feel right playing a Mexican character. And they said, what about Zorba the Greek? Anthony Quinn's a Mexican play a Greek can play a Mexican. But the next year I said, Jeff, you got to help me. My dad's gonna, put me out for adoption. So they came up with Katsopoulos, which is sort of half Jewish, half Greek. Katsopoulos, yeah. But it was, it fueled some nice storylines with the Papuli character and the Stavros character and stuff. Did you watch Full House?
Yeah, I had a childhood.
Did you look at it as a family kind of thing?
Yeah, it was perfect. It was a perfect escape.
That's good.
Yeah, I liked it. I still watch it.
You do? Yeah.
My episodes.
Do your boys, what do they watch now? You let them watch, PBS Kids and stuff?
Yeah, 60 Minutes.
Yeah?
No. Bill Maher, no, they're fine.
John, can you please make my life by singing Forever as Uncle Jesse tonight live for us?
That was Caitlin, right? Well, no. Who asked for that? I need music. I need backgrounds. Do you want to sing it? Do you know it? If every word I said.
I like you, but not.
Yeah. Who asked for that? Where? Oh. Thank you. Every word I said, we were making up with that. That song has become a really special moment on the Beach Boys live show because I talk about Bob. Look, if I don't talk about Bob, I can hear him complaining somewhere. Try to keep him alive, like Coco, where you really keep people alive by talking about him, telling stories. But I do talk about him in the Beach Boy show, and I cut together a beautiful video. You're not in it.
It'd be weird.
Yeah.
It'd be odd.
Yeah.
What's the guy from Drake and
Why
Josh
is he-
doing
yeah.
up there? It's no sense.
Bob loved you. And
Loved him. Best.
Final question. I've watched you on late night TV shows talking about the Matthew Perry moment on Friends. Would you reshare that story?
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I guess I have to. Before he passed away, I told this story. It was like one of the my most embarrassing moments ever. Did you know him, Matt Perry?
I didn't.
Yeah. This is the kind of guy he was. I was on Friends, and I was a bit of a lull of my career. And my ex-wife was on there, and she got all this attention, and I want to be on Friends. So I was to play this episode where I was a sperm donor to Monica and Chandler. It's weird, and so he was so sweet. I was standing backstage and getting ready to make it a big entrance, and they had all these guest stars that were, Brad Pitt and all this. And he said, "Oh my God, when you go out there, the place is gonna go crazy. These girls are gonna scream so loud." Action! I walk in the door. Silence. And at that moment, I go, "Do I talk? Should I go back and wait?" No, I'll just go. And I started this. I did the thing, and they went into the scene. And okay, thank you. And I was like, "They're not gonna do it again." Okay, and I just kind of put my head down, and it was really embarrassing. And I could just hear him. It was like, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, That's John Stamos. You guys probably didn't recognize him because he looks so much younger and better in person. Look at this handsome guy. And it was just a really sweet moment. You know, it was a solid move by somebody who didn't have to do that, and he did.
Love him.
Yeah, it's that's a life gone too soon as well.
Only heard the greatest things about him.
Yeah. This has been a beautiful night, and I thank you, Josh, because I couldn't think of anyone else to
Love
do
you.
this.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming.